Hello, everybody. It's Friday. That means it's time for another topic of the week. So, first things first, last week's topic on the Daughters of Cain. Seems like there's a lot of excitement out there. I know I've already got, a box of what you can get now incoming. I'm excited about that. And it seems like there's a lot of general love of what they saw, the army, and where it's going to go. I think everybody's interested, wants to see more. I think overall the reaction was quite positive. Of course, that's the reaction to the models alone. I'm sure that rules will have an impact on some people's thoughts, but traditionally, I think if the army looks cool and is designed well, that is to say, like the way the models look and the way it feels and its narrative, then oftentimes the points and rules and stuff like that can just get adjusted over time, and things tend to work out. Rules are fungible. Once a model's printed, it's that model forever, so, or at least for a much longer time. Forever is probably not true. You can redo models. It just doesn't happen real quick. So I know I, for one, am looking forward to it. It'll be my next army, as I mentioned last time. So we'll see for progress on that. This week's topic, though. So what I want to talk about this week is we had a couple interesting things released. The first off is that in 40K they brought back the Eisenhorn model. Who famously had a really great model, an Inquisitor in 54mm, and now they're making a normal size model for him. At the same time, they had a wonderful little funny teaser video that showed that they're making an abhuman mutant for Necromunda, which is a squat. So and they make a big joke about the reset the clock, the squat's clock broke, and so a squat broke free, and the return of a squat. So obviously, squats, that entire word, has a long history. You had these old school militaristic space biker dwarves of a sort way back in the day, in the very earliest times of Warhammer 40K, and very early on they just kind of at a changeover they just cut the army, stopped making the figs, and basically shut it down. And they, that was squatted, right? There was no more rules after the change for them. There was no more valid rules. They were just, hence the term squatted became a thing. And people throw that term around a lot. Like some people say the Compendium Scrolls or like Tomb Kings or Bretonnia got squatted. I don't think that's actually true because they do maintain rules for them. We can argue about how good those rules are, but they are still actually playable, like they're legal, even though they did stop making the models. This was such a more severe, the original squats were such a much more severe cut, right? Of like, one day they exist and they're playable, and then the next, that's it. It's dead models. They do nothing, right? I think, the more reasonable probably analogy within fantasy is something like the Dogs of War, right? Where they had models and they just kind of stopped, and then they had no rules. They didn't survive an edition change or whatever. But it made me think, we've got this Eisenhorn model. He's coming back, not super old, but old. We had the return of a squat. It's not like they brought back a squat's army. But they fished out a little figure, right? And that's something, because you never know where that's going to go. You always have to wonder, are they testing the waters for stuff? Obviously, many people have made light of the fact that the plastic Sisters of Battle clock was at like 7 minutes to midnight, basically. Where assumingly, because you see them resetting the clock back, so assumingly reaching midnight is where it actually would get released. And, we had a couple Sisters type releases in the Canoness and Celestine and her Germania Superior. But it made me think about other old things that I love. And that made me wonder if they continued this to some degree. This sort of like, well, we're not going to put out a whole new army of this old thing, but here's a way, using either the specialist games or a limited edition release or something like that, that we bring back an old, currently out of print or hard to find or something like that model. What would be the thing you'd want to see come back, right? If you could only get one, again, not a whole army. You do not get to return a whole army here. In this imaginary scenario I have constructed, you get one thing. Maybe it's a special hero or something like that can be used in Shadespire. Maybe it's a Necromunda character. Maybe it's a special hero that, you know, time shifts in because the mortal realms, the end of the world, were wacky. If there was one thing, maybe a pair, because I'm sure somebody's going to pick Felix and Gotrek, so that's fine. You know, so that seems fair. They were kind of they're one concept. But if you could pick that one thing, one weird old model, what would it be? What would be that thing that really stuck out to you? Maybe it was a model you had when you first started collecting or something like that you'd want to see return that never got a new version, that really left an impression on you. And, you know, there's so many, like, interesting choices out there, both across the ranges and into even crazier ranges. Like, I think of things like the Marienburg Landship, which was never really a mainline model. It was a Forge World thing. They sell for ridiculous money now, right? But, I mean, they were gorgeous, but they were always a Forge World specialty thing. I think of the Dogs of War and all their interesting units, especially some of their more interesting heroes and characters like that. I think if I had to pick one, though, okay, just one. If I had my pick of sort of an old random model to bring back, it would be the Sister Superior Bertha Berstradrung, or however you say her name, from the Sisters of Sigmar. So she was the special character from the Sisters in Mordheim. And I think she'd be an awesome... She was a beautiful model then. I always thought she was a gorgeous model. The art for her was incredible. It was probably the best art in the Mordheim book. And I would just be amazed at what they could do with that model now. When I think about how it could look in plastic... And by the way, she could come back as just like in AOS as a named Witch Hunter. She could be the equivalent of a Knave Black Talon or a character or something like that. They've clearly shown that there's lots of ways they can sneak individual characters in. Whether you look at like Knave and Horticulus out of Blight War, or the Malign Portents Heralds, or whatever. Right? So we can clearly have these characters show up. Even if they didn't redo her, something like her, I think would be awesome. But I say, forget it. Time shift her in. Mordheim was crazy. There was Warpstone everywhere. It'd be a neat callback to, you know, to that old game that a lot of people have love for. And it'd be a great, cool model to see on the table. A great alternate Witch Hunter, like an underrepresented unit anyways. The normal Witch Hunter rules are pretty weak sauce. They're not really, they don't do anything of interest in a faction where they don't have a lot of purpose. But as an independent hero, she could have whatever rules she wanted. She could absorb some of the stuff from Witch Hunter and also be cooler. So I just think she would be neat. She could also be like a Warrior Priest, by the by. Like, that would be fine too. If you don't like my choice of Witch Hunter, she could be a Warrior Priest as well. She famously did wield 2 hammers. So, you know, that's pretty Warrior Priesty. And again, she could be a named Warrior Priest. Classically, we had some named Warrior Priests here and there in the lore and stories, and, you know, we haven't had any here. It'd be a great way, especially during like a Malign Portents time frame or after that, you know, that you have someone shift in from this old world who's like, oh, I know all about fighting this stuff. I've been down this road before. I've seen the worst of the worst. The streets of Mordheim with, you know, demonic incursions and Skaven everywhere and madness and possessed mutants and all sorts of things like that. So that would be my choice. What's yours? That's what I want to know. If you could bring back one model or maybe a pair or something like that, something that made an impression on you, what would you love to see? Updated, redone, beautiful, new plastic model. So not just re-bringing back the old thing, not like a made-to-order program, but like a true new version of the model. Like we're getting a new squad, like we got Eisenhorn, maybe like Sly Marbo before that, right? What would be your choice? So there you go. Drop that down in the comments. If you've got a particular story you want to share about your favorite and want to make a video response, awesome. Always look forward to that. All video responses will be dropped down below, so you can always return to this video. Also down there you'll find last week's video about the Daughters of Cain, so you can always see the responses, comments, and videos linked to that one just by clicking that. But as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.